What's good, everybody? It's another day of the webinar. It is the second and last day. I do hope that everybody enjoyed yesterday's session, especially the Zoom session that you guys got to have, and you asked any additional questions you wanted to. I really hope you enjoyed it. So today we're going to be having another speaker with us by the name of Mr. Derron Manning. And on a that note, it will be great. Y'all will learn as I'm learning, and we're going to have a great time. So without further ado, let's hop into today.
So, Mr. Derron Manning, thank you so much for participating in this year's annual webinar. And before we dive into the meat of the matter, before we talk about the real stuff, I'm going to give you an opportunity to tell us a little bit about yourself. What interests you, what keeps you going, what you do, stuff like that, and anything else you want us to know.
All right. So I'm Derron. As Shelisa said earlier, I am 29 years old. I'm 29 years old. I love the Lord. I'm a Christian. I identify as a follower of Christ, not just a Christian, because that can be very vague. I'm a follower of Christ. I try to follow him as closely as possible. So that kind of guides my whole life, What drives me? What drives me is seeing people's lives impacted. Like I wouldn't call it a social butterfly, but I like to be in the company of others and to give to them and to receive as well. So to see that reciprocated, that drives me, that motivates me to see people's lives being impacted by whatever it is that God places on my heart or gives me to do. So that's what keeps me going. Otherwise, I'm a nurse. I'm a registered nurse by profession. I've been a nurse for 4 years now. And I like being a nurse sometimes. But yeah, I'm a nurse by profession. I'm a husband. I'm not a father yet. And I'm not working on it either right now. But I am a husband. And I'm taking life one day at a time. That's my mantra. One day at a time. As simple as that. One day at a time. As it comes, we face it and we move on. But that's me in a nutshell. That's me.
That's really encouraging, though, especially taking it one day at a time. I recently heard one of my friends even say, she takes it moment by moment. Somebody asked her, how do you manage everything? You manage school, you manage your business, you manage your group. She's like, I don't know. I take it a moment at a time. Only gonna carry me.
Yeah.
So the first question, because our topic is for those who may not know, sometimes you may not know, do men need accountability? So the first question would be, how would you define accountability?
All right. So accountability for me is keeping oneself or keeping myself in check. Basically, keeping yourself in check in whatever aspect it may be, keeping yourself in check. And also, as I said, I identify as a follower of Christ. Therefore, a large aspect of accountability for me is staying true to who God has called you to be. Not who you feel you should be, not who your friends or your family or whoever tells you that you should be, but staying true to what God has called you to be and, carrying out those responsibilities. Whatever it may be, it differs for everybody. But accountability is that standard. So the standard that you set is not man's standard, is not your own little understanding and your own standard, but the standard that God has set for your life, So that is what accountability is for me, keeping myself in check according to God's standard. You get me?
Well, that would further ask, my question that would come after that is that the person that are around you, that means that they would have to have the same mindset. I know that sometimes we use equally yoked. Right. And a lot of times, I like how you said, for example, that it's not what your friends think or what your parents think or whatever, but it's a higher standard and not just our preferences, so-called. And that's an important point for me, because you can be surrounded by people who don't necessarily see you as you and don't necessarily see your journey and your destiny as who you are to be, but they want to form you into how they want you to be. So that's a very important point for me.
Right.
So another thing I want to ask you is, what are the functions of accountability?
The functions. Break that down for me.
All right. So what is accountability used for? For example, the first thing that you said was to keep you in check. What does that look like?
That looks like somebody being grounded. I don't know how to put it in words really, but that's what it looks like. Being grounded, not straying away from the path that you should be on, whatever that is. And this is not coming from a quote unquote religious standpoint either, but like in whatever aspect, relationally, business wise, whatever it is, that's what it looks like to me. Staying on that path.
Okay.
You get me?
So they can't be fickle either. What you're saying is that they can't be fickle. They can't just say, and they can't be yes people either.
No.
Meaning that whatever you want, they agree with. They must be able to stand up and hold a point and say, no, you're wrong in this aspect. Remember that you really want to know.
Oh, you really want to know what people who should be holding accountable looks like? That's kind of what you're saying.
You can take that turn, yeah.
Yeah, man. It can't be somebody who say yes to everything where you say, man. That's why for me, you have levels to accountability. I hope this when I explain some things, it might go into other questions or other responses.
Yeah.
But for example, all right. For example, my wife, to a certain extent, she holds me accountable. To a certain extent. But with some other things, I have other people that hold me accountable for other things, if you understand. Because my wife has a soft spot for me. I have a soft spot for her. So when you have a relationship like that, it can kind of muddy the waters and your judgment kind of gets skewed and so on. And you end up being a yes person for the other person, even though it wasn't intentional.
It's also the love that you have for them and you don't really want to hurt their feelings too.
Right. And it's something come natural.
Yeah.
It's something come naturally. Nobody loves to see the person that they love being hurt. You get me? I say? So it's not like you're gonna see them walk in a like something drastic and say and I make it go on, but otherwise you're gonna try to keep things kind of level and not try to have any confrontation. So the person who holds you accountable or is your accountability partner cannot be somebody that does not, or somebody that fears confrontation. Because with accountability, confrontation is fundamental. Like it is a part of it, and it will. If there's no confrontation, there cannot be accountability. You have to confront something. You understand?
All right. So you dived into one of the questions that I'm just about to ask, and then you popped another question in my head actually. Where you said confrontation is necessary, it has to be there. So how would you approach, I guess if that's the right terminology, how would you approach or tell somebody who takes criticism very harshly? They're very sensitive, like they don't like it at all, but they want people to keep them in check at the same time. How would that work?
Well, for me personally, people who I am who I am their accountability partner in, I tend to suggest and not demand. You get me, I say?
Break that down a little bit, please.
Suggest, and it has to do with, it has a lot to do with just your people skills. Like, you have to just know people, and everybody is different. So, Shelicia's level of sensitivity might not be Derron's level of sensitivity. So, you deal with people on that basis. So, you're not just deal with everybody on the same level. You know what that person responds to, right? And you operate likewise. So when I say suggesting something, you won't necessarily say, Shalicia, do X. Shalicia, do Y. I'll ask Shalicia, I say, Shalicia, what do you think about? And then you will say you think X about it, and then you say, so you know, think say, maybe if you did it this way, it will be better. And you kind of try to show them the light then in a very nice way.
While at the same time including them, making it seem as if it was them who came up with the idea.
Yeah, and a lot of times people will come up with their own solutions. You get me, I say? So you just kind of edge them on, get them thinking, get them in a certain frame of mind, and believe it or not, they will many times come up with their own solutions. But sometimes they just need that little spark to get them thinking on a different level or seeing something a different way, because we all have blind spots. We all see things differently. And sometimes your perspective and my perspective are two different things. We're looking at the wall, but you are seeing the crack. I am seeing a dot or something. You get me? I say? So it's just really sparking conversation, getting the person to think, and even trying to get them to think a different way. Then.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. So you mentioned about your wife being your accountability partner to some extent. One of the questions that I have is, can women, or is it recommended that women be a man's accountability partner? We can look at it from different perspectives, whether it is marriage, friendship, or relationship, because there are stages. But you know how sometimes they would say, maybe you can come in like a compromising position. By position, don't literally mean physical, but you can compromise either your integrity, maybe your emotional stability, and those type of stuff. So is it recommended, and can a woman be somebody's accountability partner, a male's accountability partner?
All right. I mean, it levels again. So I have female friends who I would consider my accountability partners, even though we have not sat down and have a formal discussion and say, you are my accountability partner. But this person is somebody who challenges me, especially spiritually, and I feel free to open up to that person about certain things, not everything, because I believe that especially when it comes on to things that are deeply sexual in nature, you get me? I say that's very dangerous. When me say very, you create an atmosphere, or you create room for that person's mind to think about certain things. So for example, if I have a weakness, you know, as regards to anything, as regards sexually, my safeguard is to not tell a female friend this. I'd more tell a male friend. So as I said, I have male accountability partners and female accountability partners, but it depends on what the thing is. I mean, I don't know how to put it plainer than that, but especially when it comes on to things of a sexual nature, it would be best if you share it with somebody else, you know, apart from the opposite sex. But then when it comes on to other things, as it regards to just me being a husband or being a good husband, I actually am glad that I have female accountability partners in that regard. And I mean, not talking about anything sexual, you know. But for example, today I was talking to somebody and I was saying a lot of times men come together and they think they have all the right ideas right there in that circle, when that's not necessarily so. Because many times men have no clue, and likewise women have no clue what men want. Men have no clue what women want. Sorry. So I actually cherish my female friends because they give me unique insight when male friend them can't give me none at all. You understand? Because women and men just think differently. So as regards me being a good husband and improving as a husband, I depend a lot on my female friends or my female accountability partners then.
Yeah, and I think that also gives way to generalizing and stereotyping, because you have the male saying one thing because they think, especially when you think that one female is all females. So you think what one female wants, all female wants.
Right.
And the same thing goes for females. We think that, okay, when this man said that's what he wants, that's what all men want, and that's not the case. And sometimes I think we don't get to know the person. We kind of skip that part there and don't get to know the person and just assume, which is another dangerous thing, especially like even in friendships and relationships, where we can sometimes feel as though we know the person so much, or we get so comfortable that we no longer pursue them. And yes, females can pursue to a certain extent, not in the pursuit that is normally taught. So the other thing, you mentioned male gatherings and female gatherings. Do you think that men don't value accountability because of a lack of representation, specifically Black men?
What do you mean?
Lack of representation in the sense where you know how sometimes we'd applaud black men for doing certain things that they're supposed to, or certain things that it's expected or you don't want them to have. All right, see if I can pull an example. You have, I'm going to use white and black. There's no reason, but white males specifically are more likely to quote unquote cry, bawl, talk about intimate things, while black men may come together, talk about football, talk about sports and anything else that's a common interest, but not necessarily share their secrets or not necessarily break down and cry and all them someday. Do you think it's because of a lack of representation? Why?
So they're not seeing it.
Men? Yeah. They're not seeing it, so they don't know what to do or how it's supposed to look like and stuff like that.
Definitely. I mean, toxic masculinity. That's the term. Toxic masculinity, or culture. Yo, let me tell you how deep this thing is. The other day, I wanted to make a post about toxic masculinity, but I wanted to write something. I never wanted to make a video. I wanted to write something, but I needed a picture to post with the post.
Yeah.
And I was there searching for the manliest looking. So I never wanted a picture that I was smiling. Like me, I look for one picture where I look serious and I look, you know?
Yeah.
All right, so let me say, yo, this is the same thing I'm trying to put across. It's the same thing. So it's so deep. Sometimes you do some things and you don't even realize. So even in that scenario, I say, yo, why do I think that because I'm posting something that's supposed to be manly, I'm supposed to look coarse or rough?
Yeah.
You get me, I say? And that is, as black men, we can't talk for any other race. For black men, we're cultured to be tough. We're cultured to just bite the bullet and keep it pushing. We're cultured to hide our emotions. We're cultured to believe that you not talking about your emotions makes you strong. When in actuality, the strong person is able to effectively express their emotions.
Yes.
You understand? It takes a lot of strength to be vulnerable. All right? People normally associate vulnerability with weakness. It takes a lot of strength to be vulnerable. So in that regard, I'm grateful that I had my mother to teach me certain things in that sense, you know, that it's okay to show emotions. It's okay to open up. It's okay to be true to your feelings. If you accept how you feel and let that be known, you know, and you know, even in our own Jamaican culture, it causes a lot of problems as well, because women communicate on an emotional level a lot, right? When men are totally just out there and have a clue how to respond to, what to say, when you say emotionally, how to express, as I said earlier, and it causes a ripple effect, you know, and it messes up the family, and then it goes on for the next generation. And if that person, the next generation, decides, yo, man, now go do this, it just keeps going, you know. And it's because, as I say, a lack of representation. But somebody has to change.
Yes. I don't want to say unfortunately, but what tends to happen, and I guess because a lot of us in this generation is experiencing it, a lot of us that are supposed to be generational breakers tend to go under a lot of stress, because we're not just breaking our parents' generation, we're breaking something far
beyond,
far greater. And it sometimes gets overwhelming. But for anybody, you know, who's watching it, because I know for one, I know I'm one of them. And I know that sometimes it gets really overwhelming and so stressful, and you're wondering, why is it that you can't pass that one stagnant thing that's just holding you back? And what I really want to say in this moment, at the moment, is keep pushing. It's hard, it's rough, but you're not the only one. And that's even why we're talking about accountability. Yes, it is, do men need accountability, but in general, we all need accountability, and we all need people to support each other.
That's true.
You also mentioned I remember the minister when I was watching news, I think it was last night, and he was mentioning even same toxic masculinity that you were talking about, and he was saying even just the slangs that dudes would say, like dirty girl and this and this and that. And somebody made a remark, then why is it that females are responding to it? And I was saying it's not just that. There are levels to this thing. There are perspectives that we don't even hear about. You're saying, why is the female responding to it? But you don't know how the female grow. You don't know if their father is present, one. You don't know if that's how their father addressed them or their mother. Second of all, I think we put a lot of pressure on females. It has been said for a lot, but we put a lot of pressure on females to be this perfect woman for a man, but we don't teach the man to be a whole man.
Yeah.
And that is my issue, in the sense where you won't have perfect men, but it is essential for you to have a whole man, not just teaching them about providing, which is something that I had written down when I was watching a podcast. But it's not just about teaching them to provide for the family, to protect them physically and stuff like that, but it is to be emotionally there. That's one. It is to be a protector of her emotions. It is to be somebody who they're in tune with their emotional side and they're in tune with their manhood. You know, probably you can explain it better than I can, obviously, but I think there's a strain, especially when it comes to male knowing when to be a man, like a physical man, and when to just put your guard down, when to know that you're safe around certain people, to know that you're safe around the woman you're with, and you know, different categories. All right, let me just ask that question so that you can actually answer. What are the levels of manhood, if I can ask it that way?
Levels of manhood, yo, that's a serious question, you know?
Yeah.
The levels of manhood. I think you never really attain manhood. I think it's always something that you're just striving after. Because manhood for me, it sounds like something so solid, and I mean, for the most part, you're gonna fall short. But as I said, it's like a continuous thing. It's a continuous thing. And there have been times, especially for me, there have been times when me feel say me reach, like me at the pinnacle.
Yeah.
You understand? And then we just go do some foolishness, or I do something and the way my wife respond, like she show me, no, that wasn't necessarily the best way to go about that, or that isn't necessarily the best way to communicate that, or whatever. After me feel I'm reaching. So it's like for me, I'm realizing now that it is a process. Becoming a man is a process. Like, it's not like you're one boy yesterday and then you're one man today. It's not like that. It's a continuous process. And with everything in life, this is my approach. I never believe that I am there. You understand? Because you see, anytime you believe that you're there, you stop. And when you stop, you become complacent. And when you become complacent, you tend to fall off instead of get better.
Yeah.
You see me? Complacency never really brings you further, takes you backwards. In most of whatever it is, complacency kills eventually.
Yes.
You get me? I say, so manhood for me is a continuous thing, and it has nothing to do with your age. Your chronological age in years, because me I tell you, there are some people, some man who are 60-year-old and them still a boy.
Yeah.
If you understand what I say. Because a man, for me, when I think about a man, I think about integrity. I think about soundness of character. I think about your yes being yes and your no being no. I think about owning up to your responsibilities, not pointing a finger, not making excuses. You get me? I say, I have some men or some males who are 60, 50-year-old, 40-year-old who never take responsibility for everything. Everything is somebody else's. Even if it is a case where they must say, I never see my father do it. But at what point do you now say, my father did not do X, my grandfather did not do Y? At what point do you now say, this is what it is, that can't change again? Some people still accuse their dead father,
Yeah.
At some point, you must come to a place where you're at peace with your past, you're at peace with the generations past, because it is what it is, and you now have to make a decision to move forward.
That's good.
Yeah.
So what are your thoughts then? Because that was something I was also thinking about. And what I'm about to erase what has happened, because I don't think that can ever be erased, especially from the Black culture. But what do you think of people continuously using slavery as an excuse for a lack of accountability?
Again, it is what it is.
Mm-hmm.
I have respect, right, for those who fought on our behalf, and I understand the mindset that they had in those times and the way they did what they did, because they never had a choice in a lot of it, or because that is how they were trained or brainwashed, and all of this is real, is true, right? But as I said, same thing goes back to at what point. It's the question I ask all the time, right? You call it out for what it is, you identify the thing, because before you deal with a problem, you have to identify it. You can't come to a solution before you identify that there's actually a problem. So you identify it. But then at what point, this is a question I have for anybody listening that may be struggling with these thoughts and, generations past, even with slavery and anything there. At what point now do you say, I am not a slave? At what point do you say, I am not my father? I am not my grandfather. I am not my uncles. I am not my great-great-grandfather, whoever it is. I am not that person. I am Derron, for example. I am my own person. I have, every day I wake up, it's like you have a new leaf in the book, a new page. And you now have a choice to tear out the page, for write on the page, for color something, for do whatever. You have a choice. So at what point do we change? It's the same thing.
Yeah. And I think that's so good, to be honest, because a lot of people keep using the excuse, and even me as a woman, I keep saying that, yeah, you never know before. Okay, your father never knew, your mother never knew. But at the same time, will you decide to know? You can't just continue to say that, oh, I never got this. But I mean, come on. First of all, society keeps evolving.
That's true.
Technology keeps evolving. New people come around with new perspectives. Books are there. The internet is there. Yes, I know some people are not as privileged as others, but at the same time, there must be somebody, there must be something that you can look at and say, this looks like a different way and it looks like the good way. Feel me?
Yeah.
So I think sometimes people use it as an excuse, and sometimes can irritate me because I'm like, it's not an excuse anymore. Before it could have been.
It could have been.
No, it's not.
Yeah.
And as I mentioned before, I remember watching a podcast, and there's something that one of his guests, I was watching Anthony O'Neill's podcast, and there's something that his guest said, I'm like, oh my God. He mentioned about raising our daughters and loving our sons. By that he meant that we can sometimes be, well, parents, I'm not a parent yet, but parents can love their sons, be so protective of their sons. And on the flip side, they're treating their daughters like they're training them how to be wife. They're treating them to be independent Black women. They're treating them to, not have to depend on anybody, work for what they want, to be on that hustle and stuff, while at the same time, the male on the flip side is just living their best life. And we've always had an issue with it, because we're saying, how is it that you're going to treat my brother like this, but at the same time, you are treating me like this? How does that work? And I just want to hear your comments on it, because I think that also plays into why men don't take accountability at the same time, because they may feel as though they can do what they want. They're obligated to whatever they want to do, because they're not being held to any standard, while a female is already being held to a certain standard.
Again, it goes back to generation. It's generation to generation, and as you said earlier, society is evolving. You get me? I say so. Back then, it was the norm for a woman to be at home. You get me? Back then, it was the norm for the man to be the one out a work, bringing the bread, and so on. That was the norm. So they were conditioned then to raise the children in that regard, because the mother now is the homemaker and she's raising her daughters to be homemakers as well. Not necessarily raising a daughter to become a leader in the corporate world, because back then women never have no chat whatsoever. Right? But as time has gone by, where women, both men and women, have equal opportunities, where I think women, there are more women in university, right? I think so.
More than likely,
yeah. Yeah, so women now are able to pull down the high level jobs and so on. That is why now a lot of men, that's why it's rough, you know. Because a lot of women, because I talk to women a lot, and they say, yo, they just can't find a suitable spouse. You see me? And it goes back to the upbringing of that man that should have been raised to be secure in himself. You see me? I say, raised to know that a woman is not, because you see, some of these men, they grew up seeing their mother live a certain way, just their yard and deal with them, the kind of something. And they grew up seeing their sisters being raised in that way as well. So now when they're to have a spouse or whatever, they're expecting that woman now to be like that, to be like mommy or to be like my sister, when that's not necessarily the case. You get me? I say? So right then, now that is where there's a lot of, it is like a tug and war. It's like a tug and war where a lot of women, especially women who are educated, women who have high-powered titles or whatever, jobs that are way up there, that are doing their own thing. A lot of women now are saying, yo, I don't see the need for a man. Apart from to procreate, they must say like, yo, this man is gonna be baggage. More than anything else is baggage. Because guess what? I can pay my own bills, I can do my own thing, I can raise my own child because I have the money to do it.
Yeah.
You get me? I say? So now, parents of this us, moving forward, we have to understand, because the thing is, the problem is not Shalisa. The problem is, there are a lot of people who still have not realized that times are changing, or that the times have changed. So they are going about in the same way, the same mentality, the man is the king of the house and the woman is just his assistant. That same mentality is there, and everything starts right here.
Yeah. Yes.
You get me? I say, every action, it comes from, that's my belief strongly. We can be impulsive sometimes, but for the most part, every action or every behavior, it comes from our thoughts, from what we have right here. You get me? I say? So it's important for parents now in our generations, or in our generation or the generations to come, to teach their children that, yo, this is what is expected of you. This is the standard. This is your role as a man. You see me? Because that's one thing my mother really, my father was more on the quiet side. So he lived a certain way that I could see. But my mother was the one who taught, who opened her mouth and said, yo, this is what is expected of you. You get me? I say? But the problem is a lot of parents, them allow the culture to raise them pitney.
Yes.
Them allow TV and social media and them thing there for raise their children. And then we just end up in this continuous cycle of dysfunction.
Yeah.
So you know,
I was
even
also
with raising
mentioning
kids.
to my mom recently that a lot of people nowadays don't even believe in the whole a village raises a child. And I'm saying, unfortunately, we see the ripple effect of straying away from that, because it's not just on the correctional side, where if you see a picking do something wrong, you know, so you can school them and so. I genuinely think when you had older people literally again holding you accountable, whether you are a female or a male, they were holding you to a certain standard. It did help, and it did let you realize that you can't get away with everything, and then everything you have to do, you know.
Well, for me, I'm glad a village raised me. I mean, when I say village, I mean like relatives, but because it's the church structure, and when I mean the church, I mean the entire church, but because there were so many, you know, other people in the church who were close to my mother who had expectations, and the same thing, accountability. So like even before me do certain things or go a certain way or whatever, I would think about, yo, what will this person think? Not because I'm living for that person, but just because I know the expectations. And expectations aren't always bad. You see, that a problem with our generation, you know. That you see that only God can judge me thing there.
Yeah, let's talk about it.
Yeah, son. It make we. It's like we are self-destruct, yo. If you're a human being living in a particular community, and when we say community, I mean geographically, there are certain expectations of you. There will be expectations. There are certain responsibilities that you are expected to carry out. You get me? I say it's not just it's you alone living in your own world. We're all relational beings, and what you do affects me. What I do affects you or affects somebody else. It affects people, especially when there are younger people looking up to you. What you do matters.
Yeah. Yeah.
You get me? I say? So in
And
that sense, we don't like we don't like accountability. That same only God can judge me thing there. We don't that saying I do not like to be held accountable for anything. Let me just live my life. But your life, whether you believe it or not, you do not live in you don't live in isolation. You don't live by yourself. You are around people and we impact each other.
Yeah, definitely. All right. So before we were saying, especially that we have different accountability partners. So you would say something to females, and but if you get too personal, you say it to your male accountability. And I wanted to know, what does it look like in various areas? So I broke it down into the sense of, what does it look like in friendships? Because in friendships, we kind of mix that much. Like, I think you would still have the same effects nonetheless, where you'd have certain things you tell to your girlfriends, certain things you may tell to your male friends. But what does it really look like, especially with a friend holding you accountable? As a male, that is. Because we're really talking about males.
Okay. Well, in any, everybody I think has you have your circle, you have the inner circle, you have your inner circle. They're levels. So again, I have friends, and them are my friend, but them can't hold me accountable. Simply because of it. You understand? Simply because of how they think, and mine, I'm a friend, You understand? But because of certain mindset or because of the direction that person might be going, is not that is a bad person, But their direction is just not my direction right now. Their level of maturity, then me and them probably on a different level where that is concerned, especially when it comes on to spiritually. You understand? Because I have friends, male friends who are believers, but we understand that everybody is not at the same place at the same time.
Yeah.
You get me? I say? So I can't depend on somebody who does not know better.
That's kind of lit me physics a while ago.
No, you can't depend on somebody who hold accountable who does not know better. Because the person just does not know. So that's one of the problems that we have a lot of times with our friendships. Why we put a strain on certain friendships is that we expect too much from some people. And the reality is, some people don't have that. Whatever that is that you want them to give to you, they don't have it. If they don't have it, they just don't have it. And we have to accept that and we have to move on.
So how you balance that? When your expectations are really high and you really want it from a person, or how do you... All right, I'll use myself as an example, because I realize this with myself. Because of the type of energy, because we'll talk about energy nowadays, the type of energy or aura that I give off, I tend to attract a lot of people that seem to be broken. And what can happen is that I can feel as though I need to fix them, because in myself, I feel like I'm whole enough and I see that they have the potential to be whole, and I try to fix them. How do you manage that in a friendship, in the sense where you're at a different level, you have expectations and stuff, but how do you prevent yourself from being the fixer and I'm looking for a specific word, but it's not coming, but how do you prevent yourself from being the fixer, like literally yanking them up to where you want them to be?
It takes two things: patience and humility. Patience meaning you just have to accept, as Mr. Shalicia, you have to accept that everybody's different. We're all different. We all grow at different rates. You might, catch on to something easily, and it take me forever to do it, you know? So patience in that, yo, I have to understand that, yo, this friend might just be at this stage for a while.
Mm-hmm.
You get me, I say? Therefore, the pressure for me, you know, me not feel pressured for you, me need to fix the person because I understand that this person might very well be right there for a while.
Yeah.
You get me, I say? Leave it there. Humility, you have to look inwards this one now. You have to look inwards and say, yo, am I really that awesome? Not really. No, for real enough. That's what keeps me that's what motivates me to keep on trying to help somebody else. When I look inward and I realize that, yo, I have my flaws as well.
Yeah.
Though I may be more whole than somebody else, I am still not where I would want to be, or I'm still not a perfect person.
So do you think males struggle with that, or is that predominantly a female thing?
I think that's more. You see, man, no, you see, we know we're not really busy with. All right, you see, women are very intuitive, or you know, yo, you see, when you have a set of female friends, them in each other life, like they just in each other gravy, and them tell everything. Remember, you know, with men we relate differently, so that level of vulnerability, you not even see it as vulnerability, you don't just see it as talking. We see it as vulnerability. Like there are some things where someone just go tell them brethren. Females on the other hand, you wanna chat everything. You get me, I say? You wanna talk everything. So I think you guys now will be more at risk of having that pressure of being, yo, I am the standard in the group then. Or in this relationship, I am the standard and you need to be like me because I am the standard. You get me, I say? But it's very dangerous. It's very dangerous because that will push people away.
Yeah. Yes, definitely. All right. So what does accountability look like in a relationship though? Because we previously talked about male and female and you and your wife and, you know, holding each other accountable. But we also have this thing of where some persons might prioritize the relationship over them friendship, and they will, how do I put it? Basically, they kind of push the accountability people them who is supposed to hold them accountable in their friendship aside because they're not in a relationship, whether it's from the female part or the male side. Sometimes it feels as though you're being pulled away from your friendship. As I said, whether it is the female pulling the male from their friendships or the male pulling the female, whichever way it wants to go. How do you balance that properly?
Plain and straight, there's no balance there really. I mean, I believe, right, it is natural or it should be, because every woman, when they're now in an intimate relationship or they're in an exclusive relationship, every woman, and men too, but especially women, want to know that they're being prioritized, want to know that they have the dominant voice in the man's life, wants to know that, yo, if I suggest something, he's more likely to go with what I suggest versus his friends, especially in female friend them. You get me, I say? So when it comes on to balance in that, there's not usually a balance. It's just unfortunate that a lot of times you end up having friends that are not mature enough to understand that when you're, you know, in a relationship, things change, especially when it comes down to a marriage. You have to put some. I see women. I think women sometimes can be so unfair because then we have a male friend. The male friend get a girl, and then he start move kind of. Oh, the female friend now says that the man start move sideways. Not really. Him have to the own sanity, the own peace of mind, and the peace in a relationship. He has to pull himself away to some extent. So it's not that you don't have female friends anymore holding you accountable, but now that relationship should have that dominant voice or should be afforded that space to be that dominant force.
Okay. So the accountability for a male would be more towards the relationship. By that I mean you'll have guy friends around that keep you in check as it pertains to your relationship. So them ensure that you're not do nothing
Right.
All right, guessing that. So how does accountability look for a mentor slash an advisor? Recently for me, I remember talking to mommy. I'm like, mommy, I don't think a lot of us, when we look at mentor, we normally hear it as it pertains like finances, starting a business, stuff like that. But when it comes to like relationship, about your heart, about even spiritual, a lot of times we really hear mentors. And that kind of concerned me because I'm like, we can't do this by ourselves. And especially as a topic of accountability, you need somebody who has either been in the game for a while or knows how it actually is so that they can guide you. We can't just always think that we got this. You can read a couple self-help books. While that's good, you still need somebody to guide you.
And I think for women it's easier to find mentors. I think you might think differently, but I think so because again it goes back to the fact that us black men are, especially in the Jamaican context, we don't open up about anything. You get me? I say so a man not go so easily talk about his struggles. You get me? Because men don't like, because of the toxic masculinity again, men don't like appearing weak. When I speak of my failures, I am now being vulnerable and I look weaker than I looked before. Or that is how I think I appear. You get me? I say? So even finding mentors, like somebody who are going to be real with you, it's few and far between, man. Like, if you find a mentor, like in a real life, you have to give thanks. Somebody who really go open up, you have to give thanks. And I mean, we would that mentor thing, it have to be somebody who's going in the same direction as you. And I may tell you that even spiritually, it's rough, you know?
Yes.
It's rough, man, because I don't know. That's something that I struggle with, and I pray about it all the time. You know, that God sends people, men in my life that have surpassed me or whatever that looks like, are gone long time, wife and kids and the whole works and everything.
Yeah.
And that person is willing to open up and share certain things, because this is so in a way, but the reality is, because of how a lot of men who I know operate, they have no moral authority over me. You get me? I say?
Yeah.
Because I can get good from, I can see you do some good things, but at the end of the day, if your character shady, then you can't mentor me, because me not try to share. Me not try to go in at that, you know? So it's hard. It's hard for a man who, especially if it's business wise, you will find that man. You will find man who know money and have money and business and will teach you certain things. But when it come on to the spiritual aspect, which I believe is most important, the hardest thing.
And there's something that you also said, as you were talking about like even character. I think a lot of people get confused when you say character. You don't mean what they do. And I like that you made that separation, because people think that, oh, because I posted that I helped somebody, or because I'm doing this thing, it means that I have good character. But if they're supposed to buck you up behind the scene, if they're supposed to meet you on a day that to you it may not be your best day, what is your character like?
That's why I said, when you ask me what does accountability mean, I said accountability is keeping yourself in check. But I mentioned God's standard, not the standard of man, because the standard of man, you can always meet that from the outside. When people are saying you can meet their standard. or your friend's standard or your parents' standard or whatever. But when your life is being compared to God's standard, that includes behind closed doors.
Yes.
That is a 24/7 thing. You get me? I say? So God has to be your standard. If God is not your standard, your standard is going to always change, because the reality is people change. The reality is people's expectation of you changes.
Yeah.
People, the way people approach you over time changes, and even how you are, what you believe about yourself, it changes over time as well. So you can't be your own standard. Or you can't allow your feelings to be your standard either. It has to be something constant, and I find my constant in God,
Yeah, that's definitely good, because I think also that people, especially males, you can tell me if I'm wrong, all right? But males tend to build themselves on what they can do, because if they can do the thing right, then it equates to them being right. Make sense? So how does a man hold themselves accountable if they can't find it? Because I know it's harder this way, especially if you don't have somebody guiding you. But what are the steps to self-accountability as a man?
Bro, honestly, I'm still trying to figure that out. What does that look like? It really boils down to being decisive, making a decision every single day that you used to do this, I'm gonna do this again. I did this way, and this was the consequence of my action. Therefore, I am not going to be insane and try to do the same thing and expect a different result. It's about just coming to that resolve consciously that, I am not going to do this anymore.
Yes.
That's what self-accountability for me is. That's me, even if sometimes, I appear crazy, like I talk to myself. Because sometimes you need to hear yourself. You need to hear yourself. You understand? You need to change. Sometimes the only way you can change your thought process is when you hear something different. So you need to feel a certain way, but you need to tell yourself the truth. The truth. You need to be true. Be true. This is where I am, but I need to change. I think because you see, pride is a big thing, and it come back again. I got to talk about man coming a man. You see, pride. When you believe, say, you are eating. When you believe, say, you have everything. Because again, goes back to what you said, that a lot of men believe that, once we can do the thing, that means that we're good. So a lot of men, them look on them like, this is how they look on in life. My wife, she their yard, the light is on, the water is on, the cable is still running, food in the cupboard, them can go to school, the school fees paid, That's how we think. And things are staying afloat, in some sense. But then we neglect some other things, We neglect some other things, like it goes back again to the same emotional thing. Yeah. But sorry, I'm losing my train of thought.
That's okay. What popped into my head was, and I like that you said that you neglect things, because what I was thinking about is the fact that, yes, you're thinking that things are afloat, however, there's still a void that is left. So you still feel as though you're not doing the most, you're not doing your best, you're not living your best life, as we like to say nowadays. You're not fulfilling a greater purpose, you just did it. And I think sometimes is that did it feeling kind of drives some people insane, to be honest. Like they can't figure out what is it that they're supposed to be doing. They can't figure out why is it that I'm forever feeling this way, and it feels as though I'm inconsistent with everything that I've started. That's one of the reasons why I asked, how can a man really develop self-accountability? Because I know for me, it's been a while, it's getting better, but to be consistent with certain things seems extremely hard.
It's very hard.
Yeah. And I sympathize, especially with people who they might try, but it just feel like something greater than them and hold them back, So if you could list it in 3 ways, what are 3 practical ways that somebody could start self-accountability right now as a man?
Practically. practical. It goes back to the foundation, which is identifying, being true to who you are.
Mm-hmm.
Being true to who you are, meaning don't matter put on no fluff on it. Don't talk about who you want to become. Talk about who you are. Identify who you are. If you need to write it down, say, yo, this is who I am as a person. At some state, personality wise, emotionally, financially, how me handle money, whatever it is. Write it down. You get me? I say, write it down. That's one. 2, do some research. That's practical. You mentioned earlier, we have access to so much information.
Yeah.
You get me? I say, some of my greatest teachers spiritually are online. Some of the people who make, where you get so much from, they're online, you're on YouTube. You get me? I say? So one, stay true to yourself, make a note of, this is where I am today. If you want to date it. Right? Because you need a starting point so that you can make comparisons, so you can actually know if you're growing or if you're getting to a better place as regards to self-accountability. So know your true self, do your research, seek, hunger. There must be that hunger, that drive to know, say, I need to be better, therefore I am looking for X, Y, Z.
Yeah.
And practically as well, when you come on to self-accountability, commend yourself. Like this morning I was thinking about it. Most times, I think, boy, what me not do, or where I am not, or who I should have been by now, or this is the expectation. And I never really look and say, I come far.
Yes.
How often you do that?
I can't tell you. Honestly, sometimes I have to put like a checklist, say for the day, and say if I accomplish 3 things on this list for the day, I'm good.
Yeah.
So,
man, it's necessary.
That's good.
It's necessary. So there is something that come to me this morning that I know I need to do myself. Right? Commend. I need to commend myself. I need to be proud of myself at some point. It cannot be that how so negative and like we are trying. I don't know. Sometimes it make me feel like say we are doing the right thing because we identify the flaws. Yes, as I said, we start there, identifying the problem, but at the same time there must be some space for commending yourself, for feeling proud about whatever it is, for feeling good about yourself, for acknowledging that you're growing.
Yeah.
You get me? I say, and it don't have to be nothing when nobody else has see. People will see eventually, but we have some little personal things where nobody else don't know.
Yeah.
That we have identified. When you're growing, just take some time and just sit down and meds and say, feel good by yourself and smile and laugh and look at yourself in the mirror and say, you're doing good, you're doing better. You understand? Today is a good day. We quick to beat down ourselves, We are our harshest critics. We quick to beat down ourselves. You see me? But we believe a lot of times we go further if we commend ourselves. So even as regards to self-accountability, just commend yourself some of the time. Don't be so hard on yourself. Yeah.
And
I don't know if that's practical, but that's what I'm thinking.
It actually is. And I think not only just with men just commending themselves, I also think that as females, as parents, just in general, I think we can do a lot more as it pertains to commending our men and to letting them know that they're doing a good job, even though it seems that they have a whole lot of things to do. I genuinely think that sometimes we can commend them on when they do things right, not always, as you said, looking at the negative side and badgering them and saying that you could have done this better, you never did this, and but actually saying that was good. And when you see their progress going, you commend them just the same. I know I've done that for some of my friends because I think it's important. Some people need to understand that they're going somewhere,
Yeah.
So you mentioned something earlier about like if you found a mentor and they're willing to share their life and stuff, that would be great. And this is a cuss word for some people, but I think it's very important because I think it's easily misunderstood. How does submission and accountability tie in? Because some man don't like submit as it pertains to another person. They'll do it for their job, you know, because at their job, at their income. But as it pertains to actually submitting themselves, their feelings, everything to somebody else, nah.
Yeah, but I mean, as I said, we're going right back to the toxic masculinity thing. We're going right back to the how I was cultured to just be on my own and be independent and nothing, you know, not depend on people and don't appear, I cannot appear weak. And submission, the basis of submission is weakness, yo. Is surrendering. When I hear submission, I hear surrendering my will. I'm surrendering my will to this person. So for example, me and my wife, we don't really use the term submission. We know that is what is happening, but we not necessarily say submission. But yo, bottom line is, once there is mutual respect, submission is easy. Yeah. Once there's not one party being manipulative, submission is easy. A lot of people have problems submitting because they have trust issues. Because maybe they were hurt before by somebody who manipulated the situation, or because they have seen it happen to somebody, especially somebody that they love. Therefore, they have a problem submitting, especially when they come on to even like, yo, spiritual authority, because even in the church, there's a lot of that goes on, where people are manipulated in the name of God and anything there. And then people just have a problem saying, yo, this person, I'm allowing this person to lead me somewhere.
Yeah.
Because they have been led before astray, or they see somebody being led astray before. So there's a lot to do with trust as well, you know?
That's true. Yeah. And I think we are very easy to call out a woman on her trust issues and, you know, XYZ. But when it comes to a man, nobody wants to talk about it. Nobody wants to talk about it at all.
She said that's a problem we have, you know. And this has been a problem for generations. And it seemed like it has taken root even in our generation, same way again.
Yes.
You understand? Where men just go around being numb to everything. You see me?
And
because
go ahead.
It's crazy. Because whether them have father issues or whatever, so them just not trust people, like, you know, especially for some men who their fathers. I think for some people, they're better off when the father just been absent, just totally. But you have some, you know, people who are messed up, people who them father come and go, mess with their mind, and then it spills over into their own relationships, with their wives or their children or whatever. So it's just a broken cycle. Like it's just a cycle of brokenness. You see me I say? It's a cycle of brokenness, and it take time. Because for me, there are things that have been passed down from generation to generation in my lineage or whatever. But it has taken me deciding again. It has taken me opening up to my wife and saying, yo, babe, if you see me operating in this way, I'm not making an excuse for the behavior.
Yes.
Right? I am not making an excuse for the behavior, but I'll explain to her that, yo, this is how I was raised. This is what I saw. This is what I know. Therefore, sometimes I might respond in this way, but help me to be different, or explain to me that, yo, this is not acceptable, and this is what I expect, you know?
Yeah.
So, yeah.
And then that goes right back to what you were saying about suggesting versus demanding, because some wives, I'm not a wife yet, but I have a clear idea of what certain things occur. Some wives will badger their husbands. Some will belittle their husbands actually and emasculate them and make them feel, especially when it comes to a hurt perspective, and like as you were saying, this is how I saw things happening and blah blah. It's like them want to belittle the person and literally emasculate them as a man and make them feel as though they're no longer a man, they're a boy. They're their child. They're not their husbands anymore. They're their child. And I think that hurts so much because it messes with your psyche. And
yeah, man.
I But there was a question that was asked, and I deliberately said I was going to ask you one because you know you're the older person on this webinar.
Yeah.
But somebody had asked, and they were saying, I have come to realize that my partner is developing characteristics like his father, who he hates. He's being secretive and closed off from me. How do I let him know that he's becoming like his father so he can acknowledge the effect his past has on him without hurting him?
You know, that rough. You're rough. You understand? Because if I am trying my best, or if I'm trying not to be like this person, or if this person is somebody who I despise, from the deepest part of my heart, and then somebody go tell me, say, yo, you are like that person.
Yeah.
No, that's rough. You see something like that now? Sometimes in that case, it's good if... Is this person married or no?
I don't think so.
I would suggest, because I believe in a counseling. Right? I believe in therapy, Jesus and therapy. Jesus and therapy. I believe in therapy. So you see, in that regard, in that sense now, especially the person is married, I would suggest that they suggest routine counseling. You don't have to tell the man, say, this is why we're going to counseling. Right? Even if you want to use one, because there could be other issues as well. That's not necessarily that issue, because that issue is very deep, you know. But there can be other issues as well, and you can suggest again, going to therapy or whatever. And in some way, somehow, you try to bring that across when there is a mediator, when there's somebody from an outside standpoint who can give another perspective, or who can clarify or help you to better express what you're saying. Just to neutralize a situation that can be very big. Because I know how man stay with their ego, and when they might try to prove, and they're trying to prove that, yo, I am not like my father. That can come off wrong. You know? So it really depends on the dynamic of that relationship. So it can't be like this. It's not like just a black and white kind of responses. It depends on the dynamic of the relationship, how the person is. Because every man I got blow up, You understand? Some men are understanding, some men will actually sit down and listen and think. But it depends on the dynamic of the relationship and how mature the man is.
Yeah, that's true. That one it kind of hit because it's deep.
Yeah, deep.
Because I was saying to my mom that sometimes we can try our best not to be like our parents and end up just like them. Easy. Because we have tried too hard.
Easily.
Jeez.
Because really and truly, we still using our parent as a standard. Yeah. Yes. You get me? I say, that's why I'm telling you, Shalicia, it goes back to, and it's not, I don't want to sound preachy, I was trying my best not to sound preachy because I understand that we have a wide audience or whatever. But yo, make God be a standard. Bottom line. Don't try to go against the grain. So it's like you do everything just to not be like. Yeah. And don't let that be your motivation, because that's just a sad life, because you always have that in your mind. All you have in your mind is how I don't want to be. So it's not like you have this silver line or you're going towards this bright light. You're just looking back, keep looking back. It's like you're in a rear view mirror every single second. Yo, that's what I don't want. That's what I don't want. That's what I don't want. Yo, that's a dark place to be. Yeah. Because at the same time, even as you do that subconsciously, you're reliving past hurts. You're reliving the trauma. You dig up some little old wound where God wants you to heal from it, God wants you to move on. But because you're using that as a reference point. Yes. You see me? It's like you're just stuck there.
I want to hop on that real quick. I've always, especially on my channel, I always talk about the hurt perspective and the healed perspective, in the sense where, as a person giving advice, you have to have a healed perspective, because if I don't have a healed perspective, I'll just be dashing out all my hurt to you, and what is supposed to seem as counsel is just my pain being thrown to you. Yes. So there's also another thing that you said, reference. And it goes back to something that you even said, that our lives are not our own. And because it's not our own, we live as a literal reference for people to let them know that there's another way. So you as a man, and you know, a lot of people will know you for your motivational talks and your encouraging words on Facebook or WhatsApp or whatever. And they look at you and say, this look like a man.
Yeah.
And you know, they might hold it to a standard, whether, you know, consciously or subconsciously, they might hold it to a standard and say that whatever it is that he's doing, I want to reach to that level. Not saying that it is the end all be all, but that's somewhere to start, you know?
Yeah.
That I really want to bring that point alive, to the sense that we're all references. And if we can start with a change within ourselves, we can help somebody else out on the way.
That's true.
So 2 things, I don't know if you want to join them together, but this is where we're pulling the curtains down. In the sense, what is a message that you'd like to leave with the men? We're starting with the men first. We're going to break it up. But what is the message you want to leave with men in general, whether they're single, married, broken, you know, they're looking for a relationship? It doesn't really matter, but what message would you want to leave with them? It doesn't even have to deal with accountability. You can incorporate it, but what message would you leave with them?
For change to come, you must first believe that change is possible. That is how it starts. Believing that how I am now, I don't have to always be this person.
Yeah.
You hear me I say? A lot of people, the reason they don't change is because they honestly do not believe that they're capable of changing.
That's true.
But if you believe that, yo, I can be better. Why you think that, like you say in Bolt, for example, why he could be at the top of his game, why he could dominate for so long. If you talk to him or if you watch his interviews, he believed that he could be the world #1. He believed that he could reign as the fastest man in the world over a certain span of years. You have to believe that, yo, change is possible. That's the bottom line. If you've been hurt, healing is available. Like, I went through heartbreak close to the time when I would have found my wife and whatever, you know. That was my first, not close, you know, but that was my last relationship before my wife. You get me I say? Before that, I had never been in any relationship where I was the one being hurt. You get me? But I believe when I look back now that it needed to happen. See me? So you have to know now how you are going to channel your hurting. You have to know now, am I going to allow my hurt or my pain to make me go backwards, or am I going to allow my pain for you make me push? I don't want to get too deep in the thing, but when you think about like childbirth, if you think about childbirth, when a woman reaches a level, you know, when she reaches a point, you know, where the baby is ready to be born, the midwife or the doctor encourages her to push when she feels the pain. You get me I say? The problem is when we experience pain, or when we know that we are about to face pain, we often tap into this level of fear. And when we tap into the fear, we pull back. But what if you change your perspective and you say, yo, I want that thing to come to fruition, you know. I want this newness to come. I want this new birth. I want this change. I want this new level. Therefore, when I'm meeting resistance, I'm going to face it.
Yeah.
When I feel the pain come, I go face it, because guess what? It won't always be like this. You get me say? It will not always be like this. So if you've been hurt, know that healing is available. I'm going to speak, as I said, I am a Christ follower. I believe that supernaturally, that spiritually, when the spiritual man is healed, your emotions and everything, it falls in line. And I don't want to downplay people's hurt and make it sound like, say, it's just an overnight thing. It was a process.
Yeah.
It's a process because the mind have a way for us to go back to some things and you just feel raw again and like you know. But it is a scripture. There's a scripture that I love that helped me in my little journey was, that God heals the brokenhearted and he binds up their wounds. You get me? I say, and time as well. Thank God for time. Because with time, certain little things you realize and say, yo, we used to feel a way about a person, And then you realize, you can't see somebody, it's like you don't have no little emotional tie, nothing.
Yeah.
So if you're a man, you've been hurt, healing is possible. If you're a man, you're not satisfied with where you are now, change is possible. That's basically it, Just if you believe that, it can happen.
All right. And the last thing is, what message would you leave with the woman? Because this talk and this whole webinar as well is, yes, to bring men's insight and their thoughts to a platform that, maybe they wouldn't share on a regular basis and stuff, but it's also to help females to understand men, to understand where they're coming from, to build skills or learn more about them so that they can help them. So what message would you leave with them and let them know, say, look, it's not your responsibility to fix a man, nor can you totally fix a man, because a lot of us will feel as though if we get the opportunity, we can actually fix a broken man, and that's not necessarily so. And sometimes we end up hurting ourselves.
I've seen women in relationships for 10 years, 15 years, and they're trying all this time to get this man to the point of readiness for marriage or whatever it is. You cannot fix who doesn't want to. If the man not decides, say, yo, him want change. If the man not decides, say, yo, how me I live the doggish lifestyle, make no sense. There is nothing
you can do. Come on.
You see me? Because I've seen relationships where the wife hot or the main woman then hot. You understand? And the man still straight. And when you and this is not me trying to downgrade anybody, but when you see the side chick in comparison to the woman, the main woman, the loyal woman, the woman who hold down in yard, Ray. There's just no comparison. And you wonder, how did he get there? But again, if somebody, you see, that's how the enemy is, He always want you to take what is less. For some reason, he always pushes you to settle for less. For some reason, we find it harder to believe that what God has for us is the best thing.
That's true.
You get me, I say? So for a woman, it's so important that a woman knows her value, that a woman knows that she does not have to settle. Every time you settle is a choice. You know, business nobody wants it. Every time, nobody's forcing you to settle. Every time you settle is a choice. And every time you settle, you give that man the power, or you give that man the room to feel as though he does not need to change. You're accepting of the behavior. If you're accepting of the behavior, if my wife, for example, go back to accountability. If my wife never hold me to a certain standard, or hold me accountable and have this certain expectation, I'm gonna feel the need to reach it. I just continue to do what I do, because as far as me know, I am doing fine.
Yes.
As far as we know, it is acceptable. As far as we know, yo, she not left me. So why do I need to change? You understand? So some woman did, I try to fix the man over and over for how much donkey years. And he keep on the same thing. And she's still there. So you staying, I'm continuing. Because I'm comfortable.
Yeah.
So bottom line, you cannot fix who doesn't want to be fixed. That's the bottom line.
Yeah.
Period.
I love that.
Yeah.
I think the last thing I'd say is, and you kind of touched on it, is that we also have to work on our single season. This is specifically and not even specifically, but we have to work on our single season, because we can't expect that going into a relationship or a marriage is going to fix what was broken in our single season that we never fix, you know. So that's the last thing I want to say. I just want to say thank you for being a part of this webinar. It is our second year doing it. And I say or because I'm speaking into faith, because I'm not going to be the only one managing this for the rest of my life, bless God.
Right.
But yeah, I genuinely think that you dropped some gems. I genuinely know that a lot of people have gotten a lot of insight, especially to how a man thinks, and even just the things that you spoke to the woman, you know. I'm like, I'm just like, this is some real truth. So I just want to say thank you again. And we know so there's great things for you. We don't know so there's great things for you. You know, there's far more that you're going to do in this life. And we don't know, say, you are a standard for men. Whether you want to believe it or not, you are a standard for men, and you continue to be a light for men, whether in Christendom or an unbeliever and stuff. And for females as well, because I genuinely think that when a man sets a standard for another man, they low-key set a standard for another woman. Because they also let them realize that there is greater, so they deserve better. As you mentioned in your closing. So again, thank you. And it was nice having you.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Bye.
All right, thank you.
Alright guys, so you know that now we would have been heading into our Zoom session. Unfortunately, Mr. Manning is not us tonight. He had some other nursing duties to do and he is not in parish. So I'm so sorry that you guys couldn't have the Zoom session so you could have interacted with him, because I know you guys would have had a lot more questions just to get his perspective on it. But I really hope that what he said in today's webinar would have given you maybe hints as to what his perspective may have been on certain topics or certain opinions. So yeah. But in general, thank you guys so much for joining the webinar. This year it was 2 days. I enjoyed both days. I'm really happy that every single one of you were in. I really hope that you got some. I learned a lot and I got to see where men's head and to understand how they view accountability, and to know that there are actually men out there that actually value accountability and want it in their life. So thank you guys so much for joining, and I'll see you next year. Ensure to look out for the email. I am sending you guys a feedback questionnaire. I really want you guys to fill it out because it's really important as to how we move forward. And yeah, as well as if you want to give to this organization, you can always send us a PayPal. The link will be in the chat. And yeah, that's it. That's it. So I'll see you guys next year. If you want to contact me, you can always follow my Instagram, and or you can email me if you want. And yeah. So I'll see you guys next year.